Hey, good day to everybody. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Journey. I have had one of my subscribers request to make this video, and I apologize I haven't made this video much sooner. But like I told you on my last video, I was sick with COVID, so I apologize. But this video, which this subscriber of mine requested me to make, is basically about I think he wanted me to make a video explaining my experience living out of my van as a male. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just make a video just explaining my personal experience living out of a van. Because whether you're male or you're female, everybody's experience is going to be a little different than the next person's experience. I mean, everybody's experience is going to be a little different. It depends on where you travel to. It probably depends on your setup, whether you live in a van or you live in a massive Class A RV. I mean, so I'm not going to necessarily talk exclusively about my experience living out of my vehicle as a man. I'm going to talk about my experience in general. I mean, I'm a man, so I'm gonna just talk in general, and I'm gonna try to debunk some of the fairy tales that some of you out here believe when it comes to living out of your vehicle. So let's get into it. I mean, for starters, have I had any bad experience living out of my van, part-time or full-time? No, because I mean, for one, I try to be vigilant of my surroundings. If anything if anything is out of line or I don't feel comfortable, I keep it moving down the road until I find a place that I feel comfortable at. And secondly, I mean, I know on some of the larger YouTube channels, they might they glorify van life, and they might talk about how and the people that they interview, some of these individuals might talk about how they made all these friends and all these people are super helpful, and it's kind and the whole nomadic life is kind of like a community in itself, a community that they never really had when they lived in sticks and bricks. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that those individuals are full of it. I'm not going to say it at all. But I will say, from my personal experience living out of my vehicle, I did not run into no community at all. Period. What I ran into is, I ran into a lot of people who looked at me with suspicion. I ran into a lot of people who, when they saw me pull up in the parking lot close to where their vehicle was parked, they took their vehicle and parked it elsewhere. Or when they were looking for a space to park, when they saw me doing what I was doing out of my van, like for an example, I could have just got done grocery shopping, so I'm off in the parking lot putting my groceries away in my cooler and also in my little pantry. So when people saw me do stuff like that, rather than park by me or park close by, they took their vehicle and they parked way on the other side of the lots. And they were willing to walk extra because they didn't want to be parked close to my vehicle. And there's even been times where I've saw people look at me and then they turn around and they whisper a thing or two to their kids, or they might whisper a thing or two to whomever they're walking with. Not one time did I run into any kind of a community, so to speak. Not one time did anybody come up to me and offered any kind of help or assistance on anything. Not that I needed anything from anybody, because I didn't, but this whole notion of, if you're living out of your vehicle, you're going to run into all these super nice, friendly faces. You're going to run into this community full of people, is BS. Because I would say, for the most part, you're not going to run into all that. I mean, a few people might. But I would say the vast majority of us who are living out of our vehicles, that's not going to happen. Whether you're living out of your vehicle part-time or full-time, it's not going to happen. In fact, another thing that I encountered is most people that are living out of their vehicles, whether it be a van or an RV or a car or whatever, like to be left the hell alone. Most people like to be left alone. Most people don't take it too nicely for you to go up and approach them. I mean, like, most people who live out of their vehicles, if you go up to them, I mean, even though their door is wide open and they're probably outside of their vehicle doing what they do, if you even as much go up to them, if you even as much look like you're going to get close to them, I mean, a lot of these people will hurry up and they'll jump in their vehicle and they'll lock the door. Or if you manage to get that person to talk to you, they're not going to sit around and have a 15, 20 minute, half hour conversation. That's not, I mean, from my experience, it's not going to happen. If you even get 5 minutes out a lot of these people, consider yourself lucky. But I would say, for the most part, a lot of these people, they're not interested in having a conversation about their living arrangement. They're not interested in telling you everything that they got going on. They're not interested in showing you their setup. I mean, they're going to look at you like you're nosy, and they're going to want you to get away from their rig. And some of these people that are living out of their vehicle are not going to be functioning on a full deck of cards. Some of these people that I've encountered have mental problems. I mean, there's this one woman that was living out of her conversion van, and I thought her setup was pretty nice. So I sat back for a minute. I kind of, watched her for a hot second, and I thought she was okay. So I thought, okay, if I approach her, I should be okay. So I went, without getting too close to her, I was like, hey, ma'am. And rather than turning around and asking what I wanted, she immediately turned around and told me to back up. She's got 4 dogs inside her van, so back up. And then she pointed to a sign that she had on the back of her window, which apparently I didn't see, but that sign had "Beware of Dogs." And she just was yelling, back up, back up, back up. So that was my cue to leave her alone. So as far as other people living out of their vehicles, and another thing is, even when I was parked at the traveling plaza at night, I mean, the other people that were living out of their vehicles, who were there at the same plaza as I was at on a regular basis, many of them, I can tell, they wanted to be left alone. I mean, there were a lot of them that when they pulled into the parking lot and they were looking for a place to park their vehicle for the night, if they saw my vehicle there, they didn't park by me. They parked on the other side of the lot. And there were a lot of these guys that would even look at what kind of vehicle that you had. Like when they came up in the parking lot, I could be parked in the back by myself, just minding my own business. And then off to the side, there could be like maybe 3 or 4 big, massive RVs parked over in those areas. And there's been many times where when people come in and look for a place to park, they're not going to park by me. They're going to park by all the big, massive size RVs. So I think to some degree, there's a negative stemma. I mean, there's a negative view of people who are living out of a minivan as opposed to people who might be living out of, let's say, an RV or something a little more elaborate, such as a Mercedes Sprinter van. So even in the nomadic community, people are going to still pass judgment on each other. People are going to still look at certain people with suspicion. Depending on what type of setup you got, either A, they're going to look at you with suspicion, or B, they might view you as being okay. Now, and like I said before, I mean, I can't really speak on the experiences of a female living out of her van or vehicle versus a male, because I never really sat down and took the time to have a conversation with a female to get to know her personal experience. So like I said, I'm just speaking strictly off of my own experience. So hopefully this video helps you out. I mean, any questions or concerns you have, leave a comment below and I'll be happy to address it on another video. So until then, I will see you on the next video, and I appreciate the request.